No, I endured it. It's been off for a couple of days and then like, because you know, I think I pay in the budget plan. It's not like I'm gonna notice it. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's the difference? Just one day of heat.
You gotta toughen your system up. I mean, sorry.
I'm
I'm thinking like my
I'm
wife.
from Syracuse. This is like balmy here.
Well, my wife's from her camera.
Yeah.
Using my camera.
Yeah.
That
My
way.
daughter's coming home today and she's gonna be like, it's freezing in here.
Yeah, because I
You know what?
made it.
We went to bed last night.
Yeah.
My wife's like, it is freezing in here. I said, it's 91.
Monica, you want to start
10 o'clock
talking?
at night, and the air is working great. That's how I try to drink it. She's like, it's not working. First psychology is not working.
My computer. So I'll turn around my computer. But everybody can see you behind me if you look.
Thank you for accommodating.
Yeah. I'll make those big.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Morning, morning,
Morning.
morning, morning.
Yeah. I know. We're already live on YouTube. YouTube. Rock. I'm just gonna put Monica on.
Can I make a humble request? If possible, to get to voting before 9 o'clock?
The resolutions. Yeah, we can skip through.
If
Yeah.
Good morning, Monica.
Hey, Monica.
Hello, Canada.
Hey.
Hey,
You're good. I mean,
Good morning, everyone. Today's May 25th, 2025. This is the Troy Community Land Bank Monthly Board of Directors meeting. We'll start with the roll call. Bob Conley.
Here.
Martin Martino.
Here.
Brian Barker.
Here.
Seamus Donnelly.
here.
Suzanne Spellin.
Here.
Andrew Cooper.
Here.
James Mager here. Here via Zoom is Monica Kuzieski. We are missing, is Sano on? Sano on Zoom, by?
I don't know.
Absent is Brian Sano and Mrs. Pompey. Stacy?
Yes.
Stacy Pompey. Also here is Paul Donnelly, Executive Director Brad Lewis, and
Catherine County Council.
we have Reverend Burke also in the audience. Do we have meeting minutes to approve or review? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I had a
Motion
couple.
to approve meeting minute? Oh, sorry.
Motion passes. Madison, you want to move into the resolution? That be, you want to get the resolution?
I
out of the way?
appreciate that. Thank you.
So the first resolution we have in front of us is 2519. It's a resolution delegating limited procurement authority to the executive director. Did everyone get a chance to review it?
So a question. Oh, I'll,
Want to make sure everybody's talking the email.
And this is just for the facade improvement program.
Correct. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution 2519? Burger.
Second.
Suzanne, second. Any discussion?
so one of the things, so that was one clarifier. So it's just for the facade program.
Yes.
And how do we arrive at the $40,000 number?
That was in the resolution. I'm not sure exactly. I think we might have discussed it. Katie, we did discuss that number?
It was mentioned in a prior email that that was the anticipated largest contract to be awarded. But really that was bracketed for the board's discussion. Yeah.
The only just a thought is because like staying a little bit more in line with the procurement policy, does it make sense to at least, you're still getting authority past what the current procurement policy is, but is it wise to make the threshold instead of 34,999 to kind of mimic the procurement policy? I guess was my suggestion. I don't know what the board thinks. Yeah.
So, just a few things for the board to be mindful of. As I think you all know, based on the very thorough discussion last time, the board needs to be mindful whenever it's delegating authority for procurement. Brad will need to be careful to comply with the conflict of interest policy, which he's well aware of. So, just something to remember, the board is deviating to some extent from its procurement policy in this resolution.
Monica had brought up some things during our executive committee meeting. Monica, can you expound on that?
The reporting out.
Yes.
So one of the things that where I work, when they increase our thresholds, you still have the procurement policy no matter what. That always is the rule. And then what we do is then I report out at the next board meeting any expenditures that traditionally would have been under the old procurement policy or the old thresholds. In this situation, Brad can report out on a monthly basis through his spreadsheets. Paul and both Brad do great spreadsheets, and per project, so per house or per project or per property, they can list out exactly what has been spent to date and what the potential budget is. I think we're walking into each one of these properties with a scope of work.
Correct.
We have a price on that scope of work, and then they can also give us a to-date accounting of where they're at in each project. And that would allow us to be able to tie back. They can report out who the project is, who's the vendor, what's the contract price, and where they are in spending that money. And then if there's any overages or any underages, they can make that as well. And then, but it's not going over the 180,000 total. There is a cap.
That's the cap for the facade program.
Right.
There's a total of 180,000. And one of the reasons why this was suggested in the first place is there's potentially 13 different properties involved in the facade program, potentially 4 unique contractors for each of those 13 properties. We did not want to deluge the board with 52 potential different proposals to approve. And that 52 is potentially, if there's 5 contractors, that's 200 of them.
Right.
I don't know that the board wants to sit here and go through 200 different proposals for this particular program.
And it's also needs to get done by the end of the year.
And it needs to get done by the end of the year.
This is
Yes.
the temporary measure to
That's
get
the
this
big
moving
reason.
and
That's
expedite
the
it
big
before the end of the year.
I think just to my original point, I agree with everything that was just said. I just what I was calling into question is the limit. I think given the executive director, the authority, we talked about this early on, even I think, so that for that exact reason, it's one, it's not being held up. We
Sure.
can get the, you know, the spending done. I just called into question the limit because I just think the 34,999, that's kind of more standard, especially with city organizations, you know, with the city itself, city organization. So that's why I wanted to raise that point.
It's a good point.
Is, so we anticipated the highest potential single project would be under 40, but that was where that number came from.
mhm.
Right.
Is it only one? So if that
Yeah.
one does come up to say 40,
Yes.
we could do a standard approval.
So that's what you want to
Assuming
see
if
changed?
we lowered it to 34.99, we're still covering, you know, 90% of it.
Exactly. I think we're
99%.
still, you know, expediting in the proper way of getting everything done, administering the grant, getting the properties fixed. But the 34.99 just feels more in line with New York State procurement. So I just, you know, that's,
I support that,
yeah.
provided it's only impacting potentially that one project.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
one,
And we can vote on that.
whatever,
one
and we can
as
vote on
need
that
be.
one. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like that wouldn't impact our timelines significantly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that on that.
So then I guess I would make a motion to amend the resolution to change the $40,000 threshold to 34,999.
I'll second that.
And
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Second resolution on the table today is 25-4, approving the disposition of 791 River Street.
Hey, do you wanna,
Sure. The original resolution passed by the board was to the purchaser's affiliate. He created a single purpose entity to take title to the property. It's the same individual standing behind the LLC. So the whole purpose is just to correct that. So the title insurance company will insure the transaction.
So it's just a change in who's gonna hold the property.
Right. Otherwise, the resolution is the same.
Mhm.
Can I get a motion to approve that resolution?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
who's the original motion?
Seamus.
Now we have an issue with 871 River Street. We awarded that contract to Allen Roofing last month, and Brad's conversation back and forth to Allen. We notified he's a kind of workers comp
Right.
insurance, correct?
Mhm.
So at the executive committee meeting, I made the recommendation to Brad that he checks our second place bidder, which was DMR, to make sure that they had all the proper insurances.
Right.
And it seems from your email that they are in line with liability and workers' comp.
Right.
With that being said, fire department said no to
Yeah.
cutting open the roof
Well, they
and
said, it was-
practicing.
yeah, they said it was a little too dangerous for them. So unfortunately, we can't get the two-way thing, yeah, but that's all right.
For your notes on this, on the agenda, ARPA funds, we need to approve the ARPA funds to use them. Correct? We need to approve this change.
According to the procurement policy, the board should vote on at the level of 20-something thousand. I think it's 20. I check back,
What was the
22.
difference in
I have it right here.
You've,
Structure
well,
repairs,
Brad, what was the
purchase order,
difference from
structure repairs,
DMR with the
20,000.
2-inch insulation?
I think it was
Written quotes.
3,000 total difference.
3,000 more, but it was the same material.
Apples
to
Everything, same
apples.
scope of work was the same.
Yes.
correct?
They were only off by, I think it was 1,200 after 3,000, because it was 18,000.
Yeah, it was, there was.
Right, because the way each individual crafted their proposals, yes. But to achieve apples to apples, that's what we're talking about.
Which is what the resolution would change.
Mhm.
Can I get a motion to approve awarding the contract to DMR rather than Allen Roofing based on insurances? Second,
Second. One just quick thing too, and I'm sure we do, but we always insist that we're like additional insured and all that. I just, cause some of the stuff on the certificates, but those were just for the quotes, so it didn't really matter.
Did DMR put that? I think they put it on there.
Yeah,
They did, yeah. I noticed one of the certificates didn't have it. But I figured for the quotes, maybe not, but just wanted to double check.
We'll dot our i's.
But obviously, if you're checking for workers' comp, you're checking for that too, so.
Can I just ask something here? I mean,
What's that, Monica?
They'll name us additionally insured.
Yes.
In our RFPs, yes.
Yes.
Good.
well, just going forward with further quotes and further projects, shouldn't that be in the request that they submit at the time of submission?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
And is it, yeah, in our RFPs, it's in there?
Yeah.
And so
They
do we know
submitted,
what
but
happened with
we
them?
didn't do an RFP for the roof.
Oh, we didn't, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
This one particular project.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how come they didn't,
So we have to
Think
do an
to mention
RFP over 35,000, which is
Right.
the point to 34,999.
yeah,
And so we just needed two bids for this project, and then the board had to vote on something more than $10,000.
Right. We had several.
yeah.
But so we wanted to expedite it to get the training done, and we're obviously going slower than we expected, so that's why. And I wasn't going to allow workers to go on the roof if they can't provide us insurance. It's just not worth it to us.
Mhm.
Anything else on this? Robert?
Maybe to that point, we just, even though you don't have to do an RFP, when people are, maybe there's just like a standard form that comes up with that, this is what you need to show proof of, just to save yourself.
Yeah, see
the
every
hassle.
time,
Yeah.
including the contractors. They don't want,
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
how they're running their business. Well, okay, but don't bother.
Yeah.
I think we are okay with dodging a bullet of a roofer without workers' comp, so.
If there's no other questions, all in favor of approving the resolution to award DMR the roof for 871 River Street?
Aye,
Any opposed? That motion passes.
roofers, workers' comp, I miss those premiums.
Brad, you want to go into your financial
I think we're done
report?
voting.
Yeah, I got till 9 o'clock, so,
Okay.
hey, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we did the meeting minutes, we're into financials here. Obviously, you got a whole 2 months worth of financial reports here. In the last couple of months, I mean, I think some of the most interesting stuff for you guys would probably be the reconciliation reports, because it shows you what exactly we spent. There's 6 pages of those. That's where you probably generate the most questions. I think P&L and balance sheet are required, but definitely useful. But at the same time, having the reconciliation report just make sure that we're procuring services appropriately, that you guys are seeing that the money that's going out and in. Couple things to note that are very simple. On the P&L, you'll see that we sold 1 property so far this year, and then when we sell the property to write down the value of the property, it's going to go under cost of goods sold. That's how Bonadio wanted us to do it at the end of the year. So you'll see 41,000 says property sale income of 40,000, and cost of goods sold says 40,000.08. At the end of the year, our auditors asked us to do journal entries to reduce the value of our property that we expect to sell to the sales price. So at the end of our year last year, we had a cost of goods sold that was high enough to bring certain properties value down. For instance, on the balance sheet, you'll see 791 River Street is 399 and change in terms of the value. And that was the end of the year journal entries that were just completed to bring that value down. So that way we're not booking things as if they're worth $500,000, $750,000, and then selling it for much less. It tries to keep our dollars on our balance sheet in line with the actual value. The story there is essentially we're going to put a lot of money into properties, and it doesn't always translate into dollars in resale. For instance, if we spend $500,000 on a building and sell it for $399, Bonadio wants us to recognize a loss that we would potentially take as soon as we can, understand that we're not going to be able to sell it for that amount of money. Functionally, that's why the land bank exists, is that we take buildings that otherwise would be just demolished by the city, we're starting at a negative number and we're investing in them so that they can become productive later. But being productive usually is just stabilizing them, not necessarily creating a ton of value compared to the dollars to stabilize. But at the same point, it's preventing the city have to take from a demolished structure, and it's also creating a better tax base for the city. So there's a plus and a minus to that sort of reporting. I'll take questions from anybody if you have any. I know some of our larger expenses that you'll see on there are some of our LBI2 money coming in, and that you'll notice is in profit and loss as revenue, and spending it out towards MA Schaefer, Pelco might be on there. So
This is everything.
Huh?
This is everything you sent me yesterday.
Yep.
So,
And of course, you guys can always email me questions if you have them, if there's a particular transaction or line item. And sometimes things get put in buckets that, make adjustments later too, but, largely this is pretty good shape. I mean, we're all up to date, so.
Anybody have anything? Try. James,
I'm good.
Suzanne? Andrew?
Nope.
Want to go to 791?
Yep. So exciting news. Katie is scheduled to close tomorrow for 791 River Street.
Nice.
We just needed the resolution today, I believe. And I need to sign the documents after the board meeting, and then we're ready to go. So,
It's a great milestone.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, and Seamus, you could take this news, back to the mayor's office, see if they want to do something in the next, week or so.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be fun.
We'll connect. I think so. It's huge. It just, I mean, it's even with the red X's and stuff, but it just shows the great progress the organization is making, and you can see it out there at these. I mean, we've all seen these properties sitting there for all this time. So no, it's great. Good stuff.
Move on to 32156 Sixth Avenue. Jamie and I went down and did a tour and a construction inspection of the first and second floor. The second floor was ready to rent, so that's great news that we got another building on the, being productively used and creating housing. C, we have those properties that were getting listed by Bill. It seemed like there's a little bit of a stall, but we're looking to be moving forward, I think this week.
Did you hear back yesterday from him?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. He went through, he took pictures, he got lockbox codes verified, and
What's the stall? Just general,
Well, transition from one agent to another.
that's
well,
all. Yeah.
and to be
Nothing
more,
with the property specifically.
No. I mean, you'll see if you go back to the Broadview reconciliation report, a $2,500 charge from Clearwater Plumbing. 17 Park required us to put in a new stack because it was a roof drain stack. Because when we had the offer before, they walked through, there was ice on the first floor because the cast iron had frozen and leaked out. So we had to get a new 4-inch stack put in that building. But that's the only time that there's been a construction issue that's caused a stall in the listing. I think that these are our properties are hard properties because you sell a $400,000 house and the commissions on 6% are like $24,000, and you split it two ways. Now you're at 12 per, real estate agent. And in these cases, if you sell it for $40,000 or $50,000, if you do 6% of $50,000, you're splitting 3,000 two ways. So then, of course, we've used the model where there's a minimum, and I believe Bill's minimum is 3,000 for him and then 3,000 for the other agent. And still on top of that, it's a lot of work to get them on the market, and then to not really have, it's the same work sometimes as a larger project. So ours are being such low value. I think he almost,
James, I think it's two factors. It's the transition period from Leah to Bill and his team. And then we also have to take into consideration Brad's point. It's a much lower ticket price. It's the same amount of work, if not more sometimes, because you do have to show and explain a lot of why it's in disrepair. So he potentially could be working a lot more for significantly less than his everyday transaction. But I'm fully confident we will get there.
yeah, I feel good. To be honest with you, he makes me feel a lot more comfortable because
yes, 100%.
Because he doesn't want to list it on MLS until he's got the whole narrative down. Like, he was asking if there's a lot of interest, when are we doing best and final? And I said, well, we were never going to do best and final. You're going to tell people to bring it before the A&D committee. So we're going to have these meeting dates every month. And if people, if there's 3 people interested, they're not going to be considered until that committee. So telling them that structure helps. He's wrapping his head around the whole thing. Whereas I didn't get those questions before. And then Tamara and I looked at 791's listing on MLS, and it didn't have any disclosures, no covenants, no sort of rent restrictions. It just,
he understands that process too. I discussed with him. He understands the affordable housing stipulations. He understands that all that stuff should be in the list.
100%.
That shouldn't be
A surprise.
not to keep going on about 791 is going to be complete tomorrow, but just to use it as an example. There were some stalls in the process that get us till tomorrow that could have been alleviated if there was certain verbiage in the list, right? There could have been a lot of questions that didn't have to be asked because it would have been perfectly spelled out for both sides. And Bill understands that part. Bill just needs to, which he has, he's asked the questions. We need to give him the information, which we tried to do previously. There was a hurdle which we don't need to go into today, but that hurdle no longer exists. So I do not foresee any more issues moving forward with this.
and I should say, Katie put together a great contract for us that has addendums to talk about our rent restrictions and that sort of stuff. And so that's in place. I've been working with the website guy to put our flow chart on there, get a narrative, and also they'll be able to click to download all the different documents they need, like our the details for the finishes that we expect if they're doing rehabs and that sort of stuff. There's 6 documents on this page. It should be going live later today. In fact,
Nice.
Paul's going to be driving to the conference, and I'm going to be writing up the thing and emailing it out.
So is there going to be sort of a boilerplate document for an agent who goes on, somebody calls me up, says I want to go see it, I go, hang on, let me look at the docs, because he's going to say that. But so, I mean, because every one of these properties is going to have the same stipulation. So is Bill making, or you making, or somebody making? There should be just like a boilerplate set of documents that lists.
Well, yeah, our application it's abusively at this point with the 44-page contract. I think it's up to about 60 something pages. No, 70 pages, I believe.
That a buyer has to sign off on?
They have to be right. Yeah, their application submission.
That's the application.
So that's our end. How Bill lists it, he still has to follow our process. So he might list it, get it on MLS, and he should communicate that process. And I'll be getting him that information. But then they still have to follow our process, which is the 70 pages, and then get it to our A&D committee. So it's not like a typical transaction.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Your question, that application should be attached to the list. Right?
Correct. There should be a link attached to it. Because here's the thing, I know that Schenectady, it's long, but it's not more than 10 pages. So like, if I'm going to go show a derelict property in Schenectady, first of all, I call the agent first just to run through the process so that I can tell my buyer what I expect from them before I even go show the property. And a lot of times it's, whatever it is, whatever Schenectady stipulations are, but So that it's not like we go show it and then I tell them what they need and then they're like, oh, forget about it. Let's not waste everybody's time.
Katie, do you believe that streamlines the process?
I do, and to the 70-page note, it's a lot of it is our form documents. At this point, we have a form contract, and that cuts down on my time significantly when the board, when land bank can say, this is our form, it's largely non-negotiable. The land bank needs certain protections because they are taking title after tax foreclosure. We can't give all of these standard reps and warranties or sign a 3-page MLS form contract. That's a non-starter. Attached to that are a couple of forms. We have the regulatory agreement, which includes the income restrictions and the rent restrictions. That's around 10 pages. And then we also have a form of covenant and the deed. So we attach the deed. So we are being upfront about the covenant that we expect for redevelopment purposes. And then there's the enforcement note and mortgage. So the buyer understands, upfront, there's an enforcement mechanism here. It's not just land bank's going to sell it and walk away. They need a way afterwards to ensure that you're going to comply with the redevelopment that you're saying you're going to do. So the contracts themselves are very lengthy. And we try and cut down on it as much as we can. But to the extent that this person upfront wants to go to an attorney and say, can you take a look at this? Is this, can we get comfortable with this? They can do that.
Yeah.
Katie, it cuts down on your end, the attorney approval, correct? Because you don't have to, if they don't fill that out, it's a non-starter.
Right. There is no attorney approval period.
Because it's already there.
Right.
Everything's spelled out. Because you sign it or you're not.
So, it doesn't have to be the actual, just a link to the document.
Excuse us, Monica has a question.
Sure, especially upon initial, at 791 or 71, whatever the property is. It should be wonder if we can create a one-page flyer that says all of the pieces that we want them to have, and then put a disclaimer and asterisks that say, contract is available for preview or. And then if they have pictures or they're putting it up on the list, put that flyer on the list itself so that it'll spell out black and white that it needs to have income-based qualifications or some of those kinds of things. I think it can be done as an advertisement, so to speak, but if you create the flyer, I think it would help get some of those really kind of important pieces, but then also nod to the bigger 70-page document, without having to go into all those details and flip through that immediately.
So like a bullet point checklist or?
Sell property. These are the things that we need to do, right? And actually make it almost like an advertisement, but make it so that you can insert the specific property. I think it's important for people, to understand that we are solving the housing issue. We are a partner in solving the housing issue, but also making sure that they understand that every property we sell that is, especially with LBI money, has these requirements.
I think the flyer could be as simple as the 3 things Katie brought up, right? And then on the flyer, it could lead them to, obviously, you don't state there's a 70-page application, but further details included in the application, right? But at least most people that are in real estate, if you read a flyer with the 3 main topics she brought up in our 70-page document, they're gonna know. They're gonna know whether or not this is something they want to entertain, right?
Yeah. And I should
If they
add,
don't, then
Literally,
right.
so the pictures. I don't care if you're on Zillow and you're looking at a house you can't afford. Everybody looks at the pictures.
Yeah.
So if you put it in the pictures, then they'll have to see it, right? And then we have also that backup that says it was actually in the listing. We gave you a preview in the listing itself.
and I have a flyer like that made right now to give for instructions for people that want to make an application, so I can edit it to look more like a marketing material. And I should add, our application's about 12 pages. Then when you talk the contract's like 44 pages, but the contracts really just fill in the 4 or 5 things that you need to sign. And then there's the detail finishes, which if you guys remember our flow chart, if you're buying a finished building, it's much less paperwork than buying one that needs to be completely rehabbed, because then you also have to have the enforcement for the construction, and then we give a document to show them what our construction inspection is going to look like and that sort of stuff. So, you know, a lot of it. There is a hidden link on our website right now because like I just said, we're almost going live with the new property purchase page, which will have that. And I'll send you over the one where you can check it out. I'll send it to everybody because it should be going live this week. So. Mhm. Yeah.
Agree.
Yep.
Greg, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Obviously, we have a lengthy process, a lengthy, document. It's not 40 to 70 pages of people have to fill in information. Most
Right.
of this is verbiage.
Yeah.
Right? Most of this is reading to educate the person on what type of deal you're entering into,
Mhm.
things that you have to be withheld to.
Mhm.
So it's not, you know, there's been real estate documents that I've gotten where you all do have 20 pages of numbers and stuff. We are not, that's not.
No,
what we're
no.
doing. We're just, we have requirements that we have to withhold.
Move the owl forward.
I think it's also important to realize that anytime somebody buys a house, I mean, we all sift through 60 pages of documents.
Yeah.
Just we all have our attorneys that highlight the stuff we should really know about. You know what I mean? You know, it's not uncommon. I mean, I'm reading a document now that's 60 pages.
Yeah, it's not.
For another piece. So, you know, it's not like you go to a closing for your own house, it's 10 pages long. It's 100 pages long. So you can flip through a lot of it.
The attorney only showed the signature page. That's why you're only seeing 5 or 6
True.
pages, is you only see the signature page. You're entrusting the attorney to read the 120 pages.
You got 72 hours to change your mind.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sign here.
Yeah.
But so to that, when a potential buyer calls and says, "Hey, Tamara, what do you know about such and such street?" I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look and I'm gonna tell them on everything right there, so I can say, "Oh, all right, here's the requirements, Bob. Do these resonate with you? And if they don't, we'll just save it to everybody every time."
Yes.
So I mean, it's all that information, not the 70 pages, but I mean, like I said, a link to that is fine.
That's it.
But the bullets to what all the stipulations that we are requiring, and I like the idea of just putting on a letterhead, putting it in the photograph,
Mhm.
Almost like, good for you for stepping up and doing this, but here's our requirements. Make sure that you can, meet these requirements before you even go look at the house.
Because we don't want to waste their time.
We don't want to waste
Right.
their time.
It looks bad, yeah.
It's almost like an FAQ, right?
Yes.
You're gonna put it-
Yeah.
you're gonna put it in the marketing
It is an
plan.
FAQ. Mm-hmm.
Katie, you're okay with all that?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
And I'll send it to the website that we have going right now to Katie as well, and also the material. She'll correct me if I steer off course.
And then the last bullet to the buyer's agent is, don't be scared, you can do this.
Yeah. Should put that.
We don't like paperwork as a rule of thumb.
Brad, what do you got for 84 Ida?
Yeah,
Other than it's sold.
Yep, I know we were talking about a couple times, we made an offer up to 22,000 and it eventually sold for 45,000 to a private party, so. At least it's making traction in terms of a vacant building in our city, and it's always good to be part of the friction that causes people to reduce their price so that they can get the things moving.
Mr. Chapone's happy.
I didn't talk to him, but I'm sure you did.
Yes, I was stated, yeah, he is happy, so we made a resident pleased, and it's in the neighborhood. So
Yep.
That's a good thing for landlord.
332 9th Street, we have no update, even though last month they mentioned that they might offer us to buy it from them. So, that's just no news. It's
So no communication at all.
not communicating, no. So, Paul and I are going to Land Bank Association conference at about 11:30 today. Jamie can't attend.
My mother went and fell down the stairs,
Oh,
so
no.
I cannot. Yeah, she refused to go to last night, but we'll bring her the bone joint without.
Unfortunately, federal government defunded the AmeriCorps, so we won't be applying for any of that. Bob sent me that almost immediately after the board meeting.
Yeah, right.
I saw it too, yeah, I'm like, wow.
And then we're on to the LBI phase 2. I'll let Paul take over that one.
Sure. Currently, we're obviously implementing the facade program. We did showings at 1 Park, 12 Garden, President Street, and 113 6th Avenue. We had successfully 10 or 11 contractors from throughout the state come in to review each project. So we're awaiting some Q&A stuff to come in. Once that Q&A stuff comes in, we'll post that on the New York State Contract Reporter as well as on our own website. And then moving forward, that project will be awarded in our next board meeting.
May 30th, and with the resolution today.
With the resolution,
it's
now we
done.
can do that. We're not putting this off.
Yeah.
We're not putting this off until, I'm sorry, the next board meeting, based on today's resolution.
And just to comment on that, it's not actually, this particular round of 4 isn't actually time sensitive in terms of getting it awarded. But what is time sensitive is the other 9 that you still haven't been approved from HCR.
Sure.
So,
Yeah,
maybe
we're
speak on
waiting,
that.
we're waiting 9 more approvals, partially from SHPO and also from HCR. So those will be resubmitted, repackaged, et cetera, to accommodate the request from SHPO.
I think we had 3 of them that are, was it 6 total approvals, but we stalled 2 of them on purpose.
Correct.
So we had two that could go live, but Tap the Designer, they're asking us to do a little bit more than facade in some of these cases.
Yeah.
They're asking us to go down the sides of buildings. Even homeowners are like, can we work on my patio out back?
Or my garage in the back. And
Yeah, and so we're interpreting facade as in the front of the building, not the sides or the back.
Right.
Although some things are potentially like the corner of the building or a foot off of it, and maybe you can see it.
Right.
And so those homeowners really are asking for a little extra, and they're willing to wait at this point, or at least TAP has communicated to us that they're willing to wait to put those RFPs out until we know what the budget is for the whole program. So the ones that are only getting facade work, we're streamlining them right away so that we can figure out what the costs are. So the risk to the people that are waiting is that there's not a lot of money at the end, and the benefit is they might be able to get a little more included.
What do you got, 2 or 3 of them?
We have, yes, I think it's
Yeah.
3.
There are
Yeah.
2 definite, there might be a third. correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and like one of them, we own the vacant lot next door. It was demolished. The brick is attached to the side of it from the structure, and the property line kind of is somewhere between their brick and our brick. And it's like the front of the building adjacent, and we own that lot, and their TAP is spec'd out to remove the pillar of brick and then clean up the brick where the loose mortar is, and then, to honor the facade narrative. We don't want to like go too far down the side of the building, especially if we're going to cut off people who have actual facade work.
It's something.
And we've defined facade as street facing or public facing in terms of like a parking lot. Because there's one place where Troy Housing has a large parking lot that you can park right in front of the side of this building, and we've included that side in the front. Or there's one project on 101st and 6th Avenue where the work is primarily on 101st Street, even though you would call the front of the address is a 6th Ave address. So we're including the stuff that's on a street or in a parking lot that people can get to, but not, you got to go down my driveway and at the end of my driveway on the left. So
The bottom line is all 13 projects are good projects.
And they
If
are,
we can do the additional work,
We're-
and we have the money,
We're-
and I think that's something we absolutely consider and entertain, but I think for the stuff that is defined as facade.
well, we have to just remember, we have 180,000
108
Yeah.
grand,
for
no matter what,
everything.
yeah.
So, if we stick to the confines of the facade for everyone, then it's fair and equitable to everyone, and we can get more done, hopefully at the end of the day.
Well, that's the key. It has to be fair to everybody that took the time to apply, right?
and then just to, go ahead, Monica.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So the house we're talking about with the brick, you took down a brick building next door, like attached, correct?
We owned it, I believe. We own the lot now. And
But when the brick, when it came down, did did we not, I don't know how long ago this was.
We didn't do it. You're, it was at three, it was at 32406 Sixth Avenue to 3246 Sixth Avenue. There's a stretch of 4 buildings, and one of them was compromised, so they took 4 buildings down because by taking down a compromised building, the other ones would become unstable. So, not it.
So when they took the building down, did they not?
I'll send you guys all a picture of it.
Finish, you have to clean up and finish the adjacent structure.
Yeah, and I'll send you a picture of it.
Did the land bank own the 4 properties?
Not all 4.
Did the land bank take the properties down?
No, it was like a middle of the day decision, somebody said, and they started the work the next day, and it was the city that did it.
And we acquired the property.
One of the lots. We're trying to get all 4 of them.
I know where.
Yep.
All right, so we bought the lot from the city.
We owned one of the properties in the
No,
city.
the one that's adjacent to the building that we're talking about now.
That might have, I'm not sure if that was a building that we owned already or if we bought it after this fact.
All right, the reason I say this is typically there's a demolition. Usually, Brian, you can back this up, or maybe Suzanne, you know this, but like usually if you take down a building and there is any portion of the existing building that stays up at the attachment point, you have to finish off or clean up the adjacent property's exterior so that it's not compromised as well. Take for example where Capital Tacos is right now. Remember the city took down that building and the building next to it,
Yeah.
which used to be that little store on the corner. We had to side that because when it came down, it was open and it was damaged because we took the building down, and then we ended up having to reside that. And also it's actually the lot next to it that Maria Decker owns is on the other side of Capitol. That's why there's a blue siding on that one. I just want to make sure that the land bank was responsible to clean up the facade, the side of that building upon demolition. That we're not making the owner do that if it's a responsibility than us.
And I'm not sure who took it down. Suzanne, Andrew, Brian, do you remember that emergency demolition?
Yeah, on 6, yeah.
Yep.
I think it was the
I mean, you
city.
should be able to go ask Carla.
Okay.
But Suzanne, do you know, we didn't own it at the time, correct?
No, I
The city
think
owned
we owned one of them.
one of the
And one of the 4,
Okay,
like one in the middle. It wasn't on either.
we didn't
end.
own the compromise one.
No.
correct?
We acquired that land and I got our sights set on the last 2 lots to do something there for infill.
So to Monica's point, I would agree with her 100% when you're demoing a building, because I was held accountable. When you take down a brick row house, you are required to repair any mortar, any damaged joints, any damaged brick, any damage, anything on whether it's one side or both sides of the row. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I agree. I
I
agree.
think we
with
just need to find out the building in question, not if we own the building in the middle and ours just had to come down because the other ones were coming down.
That's what happened.
Whoever owns the one that was touching the said property, the owner of that building technically
Would be.
should be liable for the damage that this person is asking for.
Mhm.
Now, if that person's gone,
Yeah.
I have no problem with the land bank if the money is allowed, if we have it to do that work. But
Mhm.
I don't want to get into a situation where if we own the middle building and we're sure of that, then
I'll check into it.
because the building that were bookends of it was compromised and all 4 had to come down, it should not be a land bank. liability, right?
I'm almost
Yeah,
positive.
no, I agree. We own the one in that.
Yeah, because we were pretty upset that they were.
That we
gonna
lost
tear it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll send some pictures of that, but that's just sort of the nuance of like the things that are stalling some of the people.
Right.
So we want to get the full project budget, and just to be a little more clear, the resolution we passed today, the goal was, I mean, I think most people would probably just RFP the whole facade and say, just give me one price. I need a general contractor to come in and do it. And I think that will cost a little bit
Too
extra
much.
money because the general is gonna have to sub out 3 or 4 different trades. And so Paul and I were brainstorming, and our idea is to make it so that we can individually award the parts.
You're GCing it.
We're GCing it to
Yeah.
save money so that they can get more done for the
Yeah.
facades. So the land bank's taking on a little extra work. It's gonna be a little more contracts, a little more
Probably
cumbersome.
12%.
Of every project.
12% of 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea being that we can take that money and apply it to all the work that could be done. So you get more work and less, and Paul and I get more work and the city gets more work, so. Yeah. It worked. I mean, the showings were great.
Fantastic.
There were a lot of people, they were asking really detailed questions and they were very interested in like coming up with solutions with us, and we'll be responding with, their questions at that meeting with details so that they can know what they're bidding.
Cool.
We even have one situation where the lady had already painted her windows and everybody's looking at them like they're beautiful white. And we're like, we got to paint these 4 windows.
Yeah,
They look-
quote for painting and caulk and this and that. And
It was already
the
done.
homeowner had already completed.
No, it's funny, but do you want to talk about the 4 projects that we have for our larger projects for LDS?
Sure. As we all know, 871 is one of the 4 projects that we're looking at, as well as 834 and 836 River, and then 3340 Sixth Ave. Right now, we are talking back and forth, and actually Brian is going to assist us with a little snag that we got regarding wetlands, coastal elevation, stuff like that. We believe that we're probably going to get through it within the next couple of days, and that should get us approval with HCR. So once those approvals come, then we can actually craft a true RFP for all the work that is needed to be done on these particular properties, which we have walked contractors through previously. Just so everyone is aware of that.
What do you mean?
Well, we walked through with architects.
Okay.
We did an architectural walkthrough to help define the scope of work for our main RFP that will be coming out later.
And we have all of the architectural plans for the 4 are at, I got 2 of the 4 in permit sets, and the other 2 are in at least design sets, so that, we'll be able to, once the approvals come in, we'll attach the architectural plans. And it's just a question of base flood elevation, I think is the question.
And that's what it is. And where in particular these fall into a flood map, 50-year, 100-year flood zone, or less likely to flood. So
Just say 34 River. Is it
Well,
River Street? They're all.
no, they're all exactly in the same status.
Yeah,
as
they're
far
North
as
Denver.
far as I interpret the map. But again, Brian is going to assist us a little bit here because of his background to make sure that we do dot our I's, cross our T's, so that the next time this goes in front of HCR, which will be shortly, we're hoping that it just goes right through quickly and easily.
And I think probably for transparency's sake, for you guys to know why this is probably 3-4 weeks behind, is Paul and I are from South Troy, and down there, those properties are 20 feet above sea level, and the flood level is like 28, right?
Right.
And so that makes
For anybody who owns property there, you've paid your
I
fair
pay
share
it.
of flood
I
insurance.
say it now.
Okay, so,
But
and this is the difference because it is north and the elevation is substantially
it's like
higher.
33 feet at 871 River Street, so I think we're out.
Right.
But you have to interpret the map right, and honestly, without calling a surveyor or something, Paul and I are trying on that, and we're learning quickly. And Brian's going to help us learn more. So we're stalled because of our not knowing exactly how to read the flood maps or look at it that way. So
We're figuring it out though.
We have insurance, obviously. Your insurance broker should be able to help you with that as well. Like per property.
sure.
You know what? That's not a bad idea
That's what I do.
to reach out to
I
our
just-
insurance.
I think Brian probably would be pretty good at it too.
May have done this once or twice.
Okay. Well, we'll just rely on Brian then.
So
I'll save you, Brian, but whatever.
I only have one other thing is we have a settlement with the vendor next door to 785
Oh,
River
yeah.
Street for the dirt dumping that was done by his employees. And he maintains the position that he didn't know that the dirt was being dumped back there. and that he's apologetic, and that all my emails went to a friend of his or colleague, not necessarily his business partner. So it didn't represent his organization. So he paid for all the fees that we had to remove the dirt that was put there. So he just gave us the check and notarized it, and I have to get RN notarized and sent back to him.
This is the reimbursement for
Start working with us or buy our property.
Probably.
Yeah,
I mean, he did,
yeah,
we
I
did
think he-
exclude him
yeah.
from one of the property or one of the projects he had, so
earlier, yeah.
he was excluded because of that. Maybe he realized that, you know, by responding in a way to make himself responsible again.
Well, by paying the bill, it's an honorable,
Yeah.
you know, good effort.
Yeah.
Anyway.
If there's anything else, if there's nothing else, I get a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. On a second, all in favor?
I.
Any opposed? No? Motion
I'm on.
passes.
Bye.
Thank you.